Right, what I want to do next is just tweak some of the values to get closer to the sim that I'm interested in, right? So I want a whole lot more agents in a bigger space. So this circle defines, where the agents will be. So I'm going to push this up to 50 times bigger. Okay, and our agents are all spread out over that space now. The scatter, so I'm going to add, let's try 1,000. Could even do 2,000. Try that. Okay, so we got a load of agents there now. The idea is I'll have the camera in the middle, kind of following them, running around like that. Okay, and if you notice now as well, the orientation there is broken a bit. So these guys are basically too far away. So we just need to raise this distance, and you should see them change as I raise that up all the way. There we go. Just put up to 50. There's no, can't be too high. Good. And then so this curve, if you notice now, is going to be quite small in the middle there. So what I don't want them all to try and follow this curve. I want them to follow different curves, right? So I'm just going to have a load of different curves radiating out. So what I'll do, drop a transform and just make one small curve here in the middle. Okay, bring that down to like 0.1 and scale there. So we got one little circle in the middle, and then if we use a copy stamp I typically use. And then if we change the scale on this a little bit, let's do it like 1.5, about there, and then give ourselves like 10, get them radiating out. Okay, so these agents will follow this curve, these will follow this one, and so forth, all the way into the middle. Great. Let's see, so let's go into our crowd sim. So even though we've got 2,000 agents there, it looks like a lot, but remember that all of these are packed geometry, packed agents, right? So it doesn't take that long, surprisingly, even when you push up the numbers quite a lot. So I want to look at some of the values in here as well. Something that I did forget to do, in our case it's not so important, but it might help, is the foot locking. So we just have to turn it on. So that's when we were telling Houdini where the bones are in the feet and so forth. So if some of the agents are turning very quickly, or changing speed or whatever, then that might help with with their feet sliding around. Okay, so let's see other values I want to look at. So the avoidance. Let's see, the particle motion, I think we don't need to change anything here. Maybe this constrain the turn acceleration just gives us a bit of a more natural turn, when they need to turn, because of the avoidance. And the avoidance, this needs to be pretty strong because we've got a lot of agents and they're quite close together. And because we've got different speeds, some of the runs are quite a bit faster than others, so we're going to have agents, overtaking, going through each other. So we're going to have to push this up quite high. I'm going to push this up to 7. So this is the size they're trying to avoid, overlapping these circles. Okay, we can push the force up as well, make it a bit stronger. Neighbor distance, we'll bring that down. So that's at 10 meters at the moment, just like there to there, which is too far. We'll bring that down to 5. And the rest we'll leave it as it is. And the pop steer, let's take a look at what we want to do here. The anticipation can be quite high. So this is, if you read it, how far ahead to look for path changes, right? So the higher the number, the earlier the agents or particles will begin turning in response to upcoming bends in the curve, which sounds like a good thing, but it can mean that they're looking at curve. Well, in our case, you know, we've got lots of different curves, so they could be looking at another curve, or looking at another part of the curve and reacting to that instead of what's right in front of them. So I'm going to bring that down to 0.1, and then the variance is how much will they actually follow that path. Okay, it just kind of adds a bit of noise to it. So I'll bring that down to 0.5, I think. Great. Okay, so I think we're ready to simulate this. Maybe let's drop in our camera. So I want to have a camera in the middle. So let's look through that. Okay, bring it up a bit, I think, and then just tilt it down. I'm going to do 17, a bit more. I'll drop it down a bit. Go, so we're kind of filling out the screen there, and then I'm going to kind of spin it round. Okay, so I'm going to drop a null. Oops. Maybe if I pull it away, because now I want to see the middle of the circle as well. If I do that and drop a null, okay, and then in the null I'm going to put just a very simple expression, $f, so that for each frame we're getting a spin, a bit of rotation, time so, and then that will slow it down a bit. Cool. Okay, so maybe we could take a flipbook of that. I'm just going to make the background dark so we can see a bit better. I will leave the ground, make it full screen, make sure we're in the camera. Okay, so let's run a flipbook of that. It shouldn't take too long, but well, let's see. Okay, so that's done. It didn't take too long for me. It was just 3 minutes, I think, for 240 frames, so pretty fast. Let's take a look. It's all working. I don't see any big, important errors at the moment. Got all the different runs. I don't see too much anything that stands out, But remember, anything that you don't like. So, for example, this guy is doing something weird at the end there. See, that's probably because of the avoidance force is quite high. Sometimes there's lots of people in front. He's running quickly, has no choice but to turn this way quite drastically. I can just delete him later, right? So when I have my sim, the general kind of behavior is more important. Don't worry if there's just one or two guys. Maybe there's probably some intersections going on. Back there, they look pretty close together. I think he's running through this agent. I can just delete one later on. Okay, if there's not too many problems, then don't stress about simulating again and trying to push the forces higher than they need to be. Okay, again, yeah, a couple here I can see, but as I said, there's not too many. We can just go through and delete them after. Okay, so make sure we're on the first frame. What I'm going to do, another thing I want to do before I forget, is just push this the focal length up to 70, just so that we kind of fill the frame with agents. Okay, I'm also going to extend my timeline here to 500 frames. Because I want to have a bit of a pre-roll, so the first 100 frames just let them, get into a natural position. There we go. So we got 500 frames there, and now I think we can go ahead and cache this out. Okay, so yeah, this is running really quickly now, but when we come to applying textures, we will have to unpack partially the agents, which can cause things to run a bit slower. So it's up to you whether you want to drop the quantity of agents down. It might be worth, if you're finding, might be worth you following the course and watching the texturing part before simming it. Okay, and just doing some quick tests to see how it goes on. So if I drop an agent, unpack, now we'll see if we watch it. It'll take a bit of time probably. There we go, that's done now. So that was about half a minute, maybe even a minute, I'm not sure. But it did take a while to unpack. Once we unpack, got 32 million points there, so it's quite a lot of geometry, depending on your computer, obviously. Later on in other classes, we will be using the style sheets to apply textures, which don't actually require you to unpack, so they're really helpful. We're not going to do that in this one. We're just going to show, so we can see all different ways of texturing. So just keep that in mind when you're, caching out how many agents you want. Okay, so I'm going to put that back here, delete this unpack, drop a file cache, and yeah, we can save it to our hip. I'll change this to sim. Let's see the name, crowd. Let's do, well, we'll do another folder here, crowd sim dot version 1 / to give us another folder. I'll just put the same name again. Dot version 1. Don't want $OS. $F is okay. I put 3, so we get a padding of 3 digits. .geo, we want to use the .sc, and 500 frames. Okay, so again, that shouldn't take too long. I think it was 3 minutes for 200 frames, so it shouldn't be 10 minutes or so to do all of this. Okay.